Welcome to a slow, beginner-friendly lesson on the name main pattern in Python, made for absolute beginners. The famous pattern. You have probably seen this line at the bottom of Python files. If __name __ equals ___ main ___ : Today we learn exactly what it does and why almost every real Python file ends with it. We learn what __name ___ is, how Python sets it differently depending on whether you run a file directly or import it, and how the pattern lets the same file work as both a script and a library. One file, two behaviors. Here is the project for this lesson. A folder called name _main _pattern. Inside, pyproject.toml. Under src, a same named folder holding main.py and a second file called helpers.py. Because this lesson is about how files import each other, we need at least two. A tests folder holds test files for later. The standard shape. Create the project with uv-init name _main pattern. Move in with cd. We do not need runtime libraries here, but we add pytest as a development dependency with --dev. uv writes the project file and creates a locked virtual environment automatically. Every command from here on goes through uv run, which manages the environment for you. One command. To run the project, edit src/name _main _pattern/main.py. Save it, then in the terminal type uv run python -m name _main _pattern.main. This lesson also shows uv run python /path/file.py, running a single file directly, without the -m flag. Both work, and the difference between them is exactly what this lesson is about. To run tests later, type uv run pytest. Edit, save, run. Every module wears a name tag. Run it directly and the tag says main. Every file wears a name. Recap from the library's lessons. A module is just a .py file. When you import a module, Python reads the file and runs its top-level code, every line that is not inside a function or class. Every module also gets a built-in variable, __name __, set automatically by Python. Today we learn what that variable holds, and why it lets one file behave differently when run directly versus when imported. Every file is a module. Python sets __name __, for every module automatically. When you run a file directly, Python main.py, Python sets the variable to the string __main __. When you import the same file from somewhere else, Python sets the variable to the module's name, usually the file name without the .py. So a file can check its own name variable and decide, am I being run, or am I being imported? A built-in variable. Here is the simplest proof. A file called main.py with two print lines. The first says hello. The second prints the value of __name __. Run the file directly, uv run python main.py, and you see my name is __main __. Python wrote that value for you. The file did not set it. You just read what Python put there. See it for yourself. Run directly, one path. Imported, another. Same file, two behaviors. Two ways in. Now add a function and a couple more lines. When you run main.py directly, Python sets name to main, then walks through the file. It defines greet, runs the print, and calls greet. You see both lines of output. Notice that the def line does not call greet, it only defines it. The call happens at the bottom. Running directly means every top-level line runs, in order. Run directly. Here is the picture. When you run python main.py, Python sets name to main and runs every top-level line in the file. When you import main from another file, Python sets name to the module's name, main, and runs every top-level line again, but now the name variable is different. The if name equals main check lets the file ask, was I run directly? If yes, do the script work? If no, just sit quietly and let the importer use my functions. Two paths, one file. Now look at what happens when a different file imports main. Other.py has one line, import main. When you run other.py, Python reads main.py, runs its top-level code, and the print inside main.py now shows name equals main, the module name, not the string main inside quotes. Same file, same code, but Python set the variable differently because the file was imported, not run directly. Imported, not run. Here is the famous pattern in full. Define your functions at the top. At the bottom, write if __name __, equals __main __, and indent the script-only code under it. Run the file directly and name equals main, so the if passes and greet runs. Import the file from somewhere else and name equals main without quotes, so the if fails and greet does not run. Same file, two behaviors. The famous guard. When you import a file, you are borrowing its tools, not running it. Borrowed, not run. Why bother? Because you usually want the same file to do two different jobs. When run directly, it should do its script work, read input, print output, run the demo. When imported, it should expose its functions quietly, without printing or asking for input. Without the pattern, importing your file would also run all the script code, side effects everywhere. With the pattern, importing is safe. Tests can import your functions without firing the demo. The file works as both a script and a library. Script and library. See the problem when you skip the pattern. Bad main.py calls greet at the bottom with no guard. Import bad main from a test file and Python prints hello as a side effect, even though the test only wanted to check that greet exists. That is surprising and fragile. Multiply this by a real project with dozens of files and you get random prints and random input prompts firing every time a test loads a module. The pattern exists to stop exactly this. Side effects everywhere. Now the same file with the guard. Greet is only called when good main is run directly. Import good main from a test file and nothing prints. The test can check that greet is callable, call it explicitly if it wants, and never worry about side effects from the import. This is the whole reason the pattern exists. Every serious Python file ends with it for exactly this benefit. Clean imports. Here is a common layout for real projects. Helpers.py holds pure functions like add. Main.py imports from helpers, then guards the script only work with the name main check. You can import add from helpers anywhere, in main, in tests, in other modules, and never trigger the script. Only running main directly fires the print. This split between library code and script code is the foundation of how Python projects are organized. The common layout. A natural extension. Put your script work inside a function called main, and call it from under the name main guard. Run the file directly and main runs. Import the file and main is available as a function but does not run. This is the standard shape for command line programs and for the entry points of packages. When you later wrap this with click or argparse, the main function is exactly the place you put the CLI logic. Where the program starts, here is the testable shape. Main.py defines double, guards the demo print under name main. The test file imports double, no print fires, no input is requested, and asserts that double of 21 equals 42. Because the guard exists, importing main for tests is perfectly safe. Without the guard, importing main would print 42 every time the test file loaded. With it, the import is silent. Testability is the practical payoff. Tests import safely. Quick self-check. Can you explain what value ___ name ___ has when a file is run directly versus when it is imported? Can you write the if name equals main guard from memory? Can you explain why importing a file without the guard can cause side effects? Can you describe the standard layout, functions at the top, a main function at the bottom, the guard around the call to main? If any feels shaky, rewatch the matching part. Say each out loud. In one breath, Python sets ___ name ___ automatically. Run a file directly and it equals the string ___ main ___. Import the same file and it equals the module name. The if name equals main guard lets the file run its script work only when launched directly, never when imported. That keeps imports clean, makes tests safe, and lets one file serve as both a script and a library. Almost every real Python file ends with the guard for exactly this reason. 2 paths, 1 guard. From here, the lessons get more project-shaped. You will write small functions, import them from a main file guarded by name equals main, and test them with PyTest. Soon after, you will wrap main with click to build command line tools, read configuration from files and environment variables, and package the whole project for others to install. Every one of those skills rests on the pattern you learned today. Keep practicing, the skills compound. Skills compound. Thanks for learning the name main pattern. The skills compound from here. Pattern locked in.